Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Knox Makers. It's Tuesday night, and that means it's time for show and share. We've gathered to see projects from folks all throughout our community, and several folks have agreed to participate. First up tonight, we've got newcomer Wilson, who has a collaborative sculptured and calculated forging to share.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, I'm Wilson. This is my second week here. I decided to give you guys my $50, so I guess I'm in my observation period. But I had met someone who found me on the internet, saw a video of me forging, and had invited me here. And I found out you guys had a power hammer in a pretty nice blacksmith shop and fab shop. And I've been blacksmithing for about 7 or 8 years, and started getting a little more serious about it about 3 years ago. And I did run a power hammer a bit last summer, and then I realized that I probably needed to take some professional blacksmithing instruction, and so I took 2 classes this winter. The first one was at the John C. Campbell Folk School, and I got to learn how to make some tools, and I did that just to get an idea of what the classroom setting was like. But the class that I signed up for that I really wanted to take was a collaborative sculpture course at the Center for Metal Arts in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. The director, Patrick Quinn, was actually the teacher of the course, and its focus was using basic calculus to figure out the volumes of things so that you can start with the exact, correct amount of steel that you need to start your forging instead of just kind of guessing and prototyping. And for about 6 days, I worked with 8 people, including him, and he brought an engineer in, and we created a sculpture that was present when we got there, but we recreated it in 2 times size. So this right here is the smaller, the maquette right here, and then the one behind it is the full-scale sculpture. I know it's kind of hard to see this. But every piece of the sculpture that we made, we calculated the forging before we did it, measuring the volumes of the maquette that was present. And we used a lot of these Anyang power hammers, and this is hacking a piece right here. This forging was designed to be folded in half, and so there's a lot of different cross sections of that forging that all had to line up perfectly for that fold. And then you can see this is me heating mine up. So here's some details. There was also a kinetic element of the sculpture as well, and so that actually spun. And it was a landscape, so these are the small smokestack elements. Here's some other photographs. This is actually the forging process of the small smokestacks right here. So they just use the nature of the steel itself, and as they roll it, it sort of forges down and out, which is how we got these channels. And hold on one second. But yeah, really interesting stuff because, most blacksmiths, they just hack things. Right, here's another maquette that was present there. The actual full-scale sculpture was there. But it's all about being able to model your work before you do it and then execute it, perfectly. Here's some other forgings that they had there that were really interesting. Some different sculptors come there to make art. They're going to be rehabbing this 100,000-pound double-arch Chambersburg hammer, and then these are the size of the forges they use. They forge anvils there, and then also this is a working 40,000-pound Chambersburg, and that's a human for size in the background. And here's some of the work that I did at John C. Campbell, and I did get a formula to make these different styles of tongs. And hopefully, if you guys accept me into your fold, I would like to use the formula that they gave me for making these and make, a working set that holds each different, general stock dimension. So that's all. That's all. Thank you.
Very cool and impressive. Thank you for sharing. No one advised me there would be math. Let's have no more of that. Next up, we've got Amy, who will be showing us dyed fabric.
Hey, I'm sure to Isaac's relief, this involved little to no math. So I've been up here a bunch to show you guys wool yarn that I've been dyeing over the last couple of years, but I've decided to try, well, a couple different things. Cotton, because plant fibers and animal fibers dye differently. You have to do a different process and all that. And also fabric instead of yarn. And also, I've been meaning for quite a while to try garment dyeing things rather than dyeing the materials and then making something with it. Because especially for yarn, it gets all tangled, but if it's already made into something, maybe it would be easier. But my first garment dye was actually not a knitted garment, but a skirt that I made out of this. This is cotton fabric that was back in the fiber arts area. This is one of the things that I was swiping when I was helping Sue and Thea clean up. But yeah, it was a bit thinner than I expected. So when I wrapped it and put it against myself, I realized that my underwear would be showing, which is not the goal here. So I ended up making it two layers, so that the inside is lined, and of course I have. Where are they? I can't find the side of the skirt right now. It has pockets. And they're deep enough because I made it myself that I trace my own hand. I can stick my whole hand in up to the wrist and still spread my fingers out, which is nice. But yeah, I ended up dyeing this with, it ends up being really light, mostly. Oh, it just looks white here, but I held it up. You can tell it's kind of yellow. It was leftover goldenrod dye that I had made last fall that I had already dyed some yarn with, and I could see there was a bunch of pigment left. So I just figured I'd save it. And then it started, I'm pretty sure there was mold or something inside. There was some solid thing that wasn't there before. But I figured it was fine, so I was gonna boil it anyway. But yeah, it ended up being much lighter because I had already, some of the pigment had already been taken when I used it the first time. And then this is logwood dye. So I've shown you guys in the past yarn that I had dyed with logwood, and when I used it there, I used a really high concentration of shavings, and it ended up being this really beautiful, rich, deep purple. In this case, I did half as much relative to the weight of the fiber, plus the fact that this is just a different fiber. So it looks a lot lighter, but it's still, I'll pass it around. You can see it's still a nice purple. I tried to use copper to make it look a little more bluish, and it seems I still haven't figured out how to use different metals to change the cast very effectively. So I think I'm going to try a few different things with metals in the future. But yeah, I think it still turned out pretty okay. That's it. Questions? Cool. That's it.
Very nice. Thank you, Amy. You really buried the lead on the whole pocket thing there. Next up, we've got Karen, who has brought crocheted shawls to share.
Hello, this is my first share, so I kind of just wanted to share kind of some things I've been doing. I made this shawl, and I crochet a lot, but kind of the thing is project speed, and also I just kind of get distracted really easily, and if it's not going fast enough, then I start something new without finishing the last thing. I'm sure none of you know what that is like. But luckily, that one went so well And in terms of project speed, it was just so great. I actually got it finished in like a week because we had to drive to Cleveland and back. So like 16 hours in the car is really great for finishing projects. So I decided to start another one. So I made this one. And kind of the funny thing is, I was like, okay, great. In the past, when I've made more than one of the same thing, the second one comes out even better, but that didn't happen this time. Anyway, so another kind of interesting thing is that I tend to have a lot more free time in the winter and in like August than I do during the spring and fall because of my work. So that first shawl took me a week, and this one took me 3 months, maybe 4 months, just working on it, you know, for 30 minutes to an hour at a time. But I'm happy with it. It's obviously not the right weather to wear it now unless, you know, I go to a really cold restaurant or something. So, you know, with the fact that I'm apparently getting slower at crocheting, I decided to start a new project that has smaller yarn. Uh-oh, that's gonna make me go slower. But, so yeah, that's just a little bit of the projects I've been doing. Thank you.
Do the next ones have pockets?
I have totally seen people put pockets in scarves, so I think I can do, yeah, I should, yeah.
I think we can all agree that all garments should have pockets at all times. And your first chair, how wonderful. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Jamie, who has brought wind chimes to show.
I tell you what, there's some hard acts to follow here. I hope I can measure up to the ones that have been showing. My wife crochets a lot, and it's addicting, and you'll find yourself doing it all the time. But, okay, what I have found, I guess I'm a little close, is the more I come down here, I finish a project, and I don't know if my wife's picking these out for me or I'm picking them out, but you end up doing more projects and more projects. But I just got finished doing a project. First of all, I'd like to show you my little friend, and he inspired me on this. What I did, I made some wind chimes, okay? Here's a small slideshow. My oldest son had to replace his floor, and me being in woodworking out here in the shop, some wood is expensive. So I find myself scavenging wherever I can. So they put the wood floor in his house, and it was white oak. And I kept on staring at the wood. I gotta have some of that wood. Well, they put it in there, and I asked the guys who were putting it in there, I said, can I have some of the scraps? And they said, well, you can have them all. So I got all the scraps, and I had to cut down the corners. They lock, and I had to cut the lock parts off of it. And this is what I harvest right here. Okay. Okay, the next thing on the wind chimes, there is a gentleman that if you're thinking about making wind chimes, his name is Lee Height, and he gets very technical and very deep into making wind chimes. So if you do look him up, don't get frustrated because he can go really deep, and leaving, you know, an amateur like myself, I was just totally confused. And my wife said, just make the things. And I just, I tried to work that. But here what I have is a base, and it's 5 inches. And on top of it, I had like a hockey puck. And I milled it down, and it's 3 inches. And there's a piece that I used to connect them together. Okay, what I have here is you have to have a base, you have to have a striker, and a 3 inch is a striker. And then on the bottom, you have to have a sail. You have to have something that catches the wind. And actually, I found the pipes out in the yard. I had a brother, he was a trucker, and on these trucks, they take bars and they put them between the walls and they can jack them. And it load lock, and it'll lock the load in their tractor and trailers. And he said I could have them. I said, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. So he said out in the yard for probably 3 or 4 years. So I cut them up. And what I have here, I got some plexiglass that I had, and I'll use a scroll saw. I'm not very good at it, but it's a lot of fun. And, you know, I wear eye protection, and I'm very careful. But I don't find it as very dangerous, and you can make some tedious cuts on it too. So if you ever try to use a scroll saw, they're fun. And there's my little buddy right there. We own a bearded dragon, and it's a small animal that it's kind of like a large lizard. That we had a granddaughter that fell out of love with it, and now we own a bearded dragon. But it watches TV with us. It doesn't eat much. It's low maintenance. So, and his name's Mo. We named him after the battleship Missouri, Mighty Mo. But here's a picture of him. And what I did, I used the plexiglass. This is a sail. And it's hard to notice, but right at, I had to drill two places on it where it would actually work against the wind. And here it is where it's on my house. And there's a side picture of it. Working with plexiglass is a lot of fun, by the way. And Billy, I need to step over here to get my project, but some people like wind chimes and it aggravates some people. It's kind of a strange noise, but we kind of like it and we're gonna make more. But I probably won't have too many neighbors. It's really funny. You have to cut the pipes at a certain length. Then you have to drill a hole at a precise depth on the pipes. And then you have to be careful what touches the pipes. You know, if I put my hand there, it won't resonate any sound. But by a string and not touching anything else, it can make a sound travel pretty far. And I had to make the striker, I had to change it out. I made it down to 2 inches. The bars were actually touching the striker, but I found by making a smaller striker, the wind, I just need a little wind, and it makes noise. And that's my first one, and there's little Mo.
We have this over here in the corner for people that need to hang their projects for show and share. This is a nice chance.
That's all I have, but what I find is I'm a little I'm actually bashful, but I find myself getting up here. I kind of enjoy it. But the more you make, it just seems like, I think my next project's probably going to be, I'm going to make some tables, like little small tables like you use in a garden. But there's always something else to be made. Thank you.
It's quite charming. Thank you, Jamie. Hey, it's funny. My mom really likes wind chimes. I never thought of it, but she really dislikes neighbors. It all makes sense to me now. We have exhausted our sign-up list. Did anybody bring a share that didn't sign up? Yeah.
G'day. So just a couple little ones. These I've done over the past couple of months, and I've only kind of just had the chance to pop in and show you guys. So the first one is I decided to build my own propane forge to use at home. And is that, there we go. There you go. So basically that's just some angle and fire brick. This is a bit of an experiment. I've never built one before. I had to build my own burner and everything as well. So I just welded those pieces together and put some like, what do you call it? Threaded rod, welded together. There was a couple of mistakes I made initially. So the idea behind it was I was making it big enough that I could turn it into a double burner to do bigger stuff. And a couple of things I discovered was this type of fire brick is garbage, so do not buy it. It is actually for fireplaces, and it's like way too low rated. So as soon as you hit it with enough heat, it just starts warping and cracking and causing all sorts of issues. So that was mistake number one. But there's it getting its initial burn. I was having issues though with the burner too, where it like do a lot of popping. So it's basically like getting the airflow balanced. When I had it outside the forge, it worked great. But as soon as I put it in the forge, the way I understand it, something to do with the volume of oxygen inside the chamber also can affect how it works. Which then I adjusted later by adding, there it is working. It's just made out of pipe fittings. I found some instructions online. There's a guy, I forget his name now, but he's on all the blacksmithing forums and had a plan for it. What people don't tell you though is that using NPT threads and pipe fittings, most of the instructions you get online, they're wrong. Like, people seem to think that you can just get a tap and just put it straight into the hole of one of these screw heads. It doesn't fit. The hole's too big. I don't know where they're getting these fittings that do that. So I had to make some adjustments, and what I found worked was a different type of fitting, which I can't remember what it is now, but if anyone wants to know, I'll let you know. Second thing I did though was I also messed up the positioning. So I was trying to adjust the height of the actual burner inside the forge to see if that would help tweak the flame a bit. So I basically had to cut and redo my mounting point, which is this section here. So, and because I got different fire brick that was much higher rated, it was about double the thickness. So that changed a couple of things. It changed the volume, but also changed the positioning that I would have to put the brick in. So I basically had to cut all my welds and redo it. And at that point, I decided just to make a smaller forge because what I also noticed was I didn't have a shelf to be able to like put stuff on, which I should know better, but I didn't. So that's the re-welded piece, and then I also welded it so that it was a much bigger pipe, so I could actually just pull the burner in and out. Previously, I had it set up where I just put the burner in, then put the fitting on the other side and twist it. Problem is, if you have to make adjustments, you can't touch hot metal. Also, I realized I made 2 tap points on either side to have like adjustment screws, and learned real quick that if you don't have 3 contact points, it's really difficult to adjust it in a way that works. So that was another lesson. And then that's its final run. It definitely was burning better, but it still wasn't quite running as efficiently as it could. I did discover there were some issues too. Apparently, when the hot air comes out the sides, because of the orientation of where the air holes are on the burner, it can actually suck in the already burnt hot air, which can start choking it out. And then at that point, I was like, this is fun and all. And then I just bought a forge from eBay that worked. But it looks really cool. So anyway, so that was the forge build. And then, naturally, I needed something to be able to whack my metal on. So that's the final product. So I started off, I had a bunch of logs. I tried messing with logs, couldn't get them flat properly. The wood always looked like it was really solid, and then after it dried out a bit, it was really light and felt like it was very tippy. So I said, you know what? I've got a ton of 2x6s. Actually, I think these are 2x8s from my reno stuff. So I just decided I'm going to just start cutting up boards and laminate them together. And so that's what I did. I just laminated a bunch of pine boards together. Hello, there we go. Then I had to buy a really long drill bit so I could get the bolts through the thing. It also gave me an excuse to get some really nice clamps. So as you all know, you need an excuse for that. And then that's the initial kind of test mount. I just wanted to see how it would fit if I had enough clearance and space. This is just one of those Harbor Freight anvils. I got lucky with this one. This one doesn't have any issues with voids and stuff, and it works really well. So I proceeded then to, I wanted to shushugi bun. It's not technically called that, but shushugi bun the wood, so I had this nice burnt effect. So I spent a bunch of time just going through and doing that. Lesson with that is when you're done, you need to use a wire brush and get all the soot off, because if you don't do that, you just constantly keep getting black soot on your hands. So apparently what happens is when you do burn it properly and you do scrape it all off, you burn it deep enough that it gets in there, and then once you oil it, it'll darken it as well. So I just didn't want that kind of in-between, like sort of burnt look, so I really wanted it black. And so I took a number of goes to do that, managed to get it to where I wanted it. That's me with the wire brush doing my thing. Because I really like the actual like cracked wood effect, and it just kind of creates this nice shimmer effect, which is really nice. Then I soaked it in tung oil, and that's what the cardboard was for, because it was getting everywhere. Then after doing that, I did another round of scraping off again just to get any last remnants off. And then finally, I got some steel bar or flat bar, whatever you call it. And I just measured it up, and I would like grind it and then bend it, and then grind it and bend it, and basically made like a strap to go around the top. And then just, screw that in with those bolt things. My brain's not working today. I can't remember words, so excuse me. Then, here's a little trick. If you're trying to weld something that's stuck to wood, it's really hard to get your clamp on for your welder. So I just clamped another bar onto to make contact with the wood, so it gave me a grounding point, and then I could weld. So, hot tip. And I just welded all the edges so that they were nice and closed off and not like sharp and jagged. And then finally, and I also stripped the anvil because I didn't like that Harbor Freight red, so I got rid of that. And then I needed like somewhere for my tools. So I just got some rebar, heated it up, put it in a vise. Also learned that those twisty Harbor Freight vices are garbage too. Don't buy those. They can't handle a lot of pounding on them. And got that welded on there so I could hang all my tools. And then the last step was just strapping it down, and I just used some metal plumbing strapping. It works fine. I'm not doing like heavy duty work on it anyway, so I didn't really need anything super intense. But yeah, that's it. That's me. Any questions?
Very nice, man, and great process photos. I always fail to do that. Nice work. Also, I just want to acknowledge the project as excuse for tool purchase. Very relatable. I like that. Anyone else before we move along? Yeah, what you got?
Hi, my name is Tootsie. I'm also kind of new here, and this is my first share, and I'm also kind of nervous, especially because there seem to be some very experienced blacksmiths in the house tonight, and I am very much a novice. But I'm really interested in blacksmithing, and I wanted to bring some projects that I've learned kind of piecemeal here and there over the last 10 years that I've been attempting to get into this. And I finally found a forge, so I can actually do it for real. So let's see what we got. The first thing I learned to make was hooks. I think that's like the beginner project. So these are two, I don't know how to work any of this. Oh, here we go. Are they all the way? W to zoom. Here we go. I know what W's look like. Two different style hooks that I learned in two different types of classes. This one, you just put a nail through the center hole, which is kind of nice. And then this one, you actually have to drill a hole in. This was made on a coal forge, and this was actually made on a wood-fired forge. But this one's been brushed up a little bit, so it's a little shinier. Different stylistic choices. I also made this really cute little Thor's hammer. One of my my original mentor up in Alaska had Viking ancestry, and so this is something that we made out of a piece of tie wire and a piece of an old broken down ferry. I lived on an island in Alaska when I first learned, and we just used a bunch of whatever got left on the island because nobody takes things off of islands in Alaska. Then, the next things I learned, so these are the first two knives I've made. This was actually from like a piece of like antique Chinese rebar. Like you can't make knives out of rebar anymore because they don't make rebar like they used to. But if you can find this stuff that still has a really high steel content or carbon content, you can get a pretty nice hard knife. And then that was wrapped with something else we found in the dump in Alaska. You can tell by the shape that was my first rodeo, but it cuts. And this was something I actually took a class in Asheville. I don't know if anybody's heard of Firefly Gathering. It's an earth skills gathering, but this was also just a random piece of high carbon steel that somebody found. And we forged on a little pop-up forge, and then I put a Purple Heart handle on it, and just recently finished that one out. This one has a nice sheath that was made for it. This one has a piece of paper that's been wrapped around it, so please be careful. And lastly, the thing that I've been starting to work on lately is spoons. So these were both made from tie wire. So tie wire is like a really great beginner's blacksmith material because it's not super hard yet, so it's like a little bit easier for a beginner, and it's also something that was going to end up in the dump and that you can find easily and for free. And for smaller projects like this, it's pretty good. So, sorry, you guys can't see these. So this is a big ladle, and then the copper on these is just from old copper piping that was also on its way to being discarded, and then the little nails in here are from copper wire. And so you just kind of cut that open and bang it out. But I was starting to get a little fancier here on the little twisties and decoration situation. So I am really excited to get back into the forge and hopefully learn from what brilliant minds we have here on the premises, it sounds like. My ultimate goal is to make some sweet garden tools because I'm also a gardener. Any questions? Yes.
Did you make the bag that you got all those in?
Yes. Oh, bonus, Sharon Chair. Wait. Oh, that was this clanking. This is a piece of deer antler. Side note. This is made from tulip bark. Just one solid piece of tulip bark. The person who taught me, Doug Elliott, is a legend, and he always brings, so if anybody's eaten McDonald's fries recently, it's literally the exact same design as a McDonald's fry container. Just one long strip, and then you cut kind of this shape, and then it all folds into here, and then we just sewed it up with some different pieces of bark. Any other questions? Oh. So, and there's a lot more to that as far as, wait, W? Here we go. I'm learning. I don't know how much. There we go. Yeah, so just tied up on the sides, and then that's the shape you have to cut in at the end. I made it a really long time ago. I think it's just other pieces of the same bark, but I can't guarantee that. This, the cordage is made from yarrow. Yes.
Dumb question. What specifically is tie wire?
It is, to my understanding, just some super low carbon steel that comes, that is what rebar is packaged in, what they use to tie around rebar. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Thanks for listening.
Really wonderful, thank you. And again, bearing the lead on the pocket thing, huh? I really feel like I'm among my people when you have authentic nostalgia for the quality rebar of old. Anybody else with projects before we move along? Okay. A couple of announcements I want to share with you. Classes that we've got coming up this Friday, which is the 23rd. Introduction to Metalwork. That is MIG 101, which is, yes, sold out. You have missed it. You will not be able to hang out with the majestic purple beard on this particular occasion. Saturday, which is the 24th, we have Moonraker 101. That is likewise sold out. No majestic purple beards involved, however. Crossbow authentication class is to follow, though. Crossbow from 2 to 4 p.m. And when I looked, there were still a couple tickets. So if you want to cut and etch metals or ceramics on the wonderful crossbow laser, you should seize those tickets immediately. I also want to draw your attention to the fact that next week, on Thursday, which is the 29th, at 7 p.m., we will be doing a new members onboarding class in this room at 7 p.m. New members onboarding is, of course, an opportunity to learn more about the values and purpose of Knox Makers, how things work here, if you're on the path to membership or if you are considering getting on that path. Now, I would encourage you to come and hang out with us and learn more about it. That is this Thursday, this coming Thursday, the 29th, that is to say, new members onboarding next Thursday. Please RSVP, that would be lovely. Also, it is your lucky night because after we adjourn here tonight, there will be a pop-up hand plasma cutter authorization class with Joe, again with the majestic purple beard. So if you would like, for no cost whatsoever, to become authorized to destroy things with a hand plasma cutter, and who wouldn't, then you should hang out with Joe this evening. Of course, tonight we had our wonderful cookout event. Special shout out to Jamie and Matt for rocking the grill for us and for everybody who brought food for us to share. I super enjoy doing this, and I was really glad to do it with all of you. Particularly with so many new folks here tonight. That makes it extra fun. If you're new, if you have not been here before tonight, please be sure that you get a tour, get your questions answered, learn everything you want to learn, bother us and hang out with us and see all the weird and wonderful stuff we've got going on. Also, as always, we have far too much food. This seems to be a pattern with us, so fill your pockets and handbooks on the way out. And please do give a hand as far as cleaning that stuff up. Obviously, it does need to be cleaned up because we don't like our rats that much. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Let's go out into the workshop and do strange things together.